Austin Carr, thank you so much for joining me on the Cook's Table podcast today. I have appreciated our growing friendship and the opportunity to connect with you here in Chicago. And there's so much that I love to pick your brain on and learn from, and I think that will be beneficial to my growing audience. And really, the heart behind this podcast, as you've probably seen as you've poked around, is to empower and inspire the next generation of young leaders. I would love to see a lot of folks in Gen Z um, get further inspired and empowered toward leadership and pursuing God's highest and best in their life, whatever that looks like. But obviously, I'm a huge fan of entrepreneurship and business, and that's where I've chosen to start this out in terms of my strategic direction in the pod. So,
hmm
really honored that you would take the time today to join in this conversation and ongoing journey. So, I would love to just open it up for you to introduce yourself just briefly, like where you come from, what's your brief career journey. I know the audience can be very interested to hear your unique story. So,
Yeah. Yeah, no, great to be on, Andrew. My name's Austin Carr. I serve as president at Intentional Sports, nonprofit on the west side of Chicago, where we built a $40 million multi-sport facility to serve the youth in the surrounding neighborhood, but the broader Chicago land community as well. I live in Chicago with my wife and now four children, not just four children, four sons.
whoa,
Pray for my wife.
let's go.
We wish we knew how to have daughters, but we only have sons. And Yeah, so we're Chicago residents. We met in college. So she's from Iowa originally. I'm from California, and we met at Northwestern freshman year, and we're buddies for 3.5 years. And then senior year, you know, both of our friend groups were like, "Have you guys ever considered?" And the rest was history. She's the head of school at Chicago Christian Academy, where two of our two oldest go right now, a new classical Christian school near downtown Chicago. And gosh, I mean, I'm a Northwestern Wildcats fan through and through. If you didn't know that, you could see the purple, the cat's purple behind me on the wall. I think it's God's favorite university. That's controversial to say.
Yeah.
I played football there, so I walked onto the football team in 2012 and earned a scholarship. It was going to be a kind of heartwarming story of a guy that walked on from California, wide receiver, and earned a scholarship by his junior year. And that would have been all nice and dandy. But my fifth year, my senior year, I broke some records, and ultimately that opened some doors to play in the NFL. And so I went on to play for the New England Patriots and the New Orleans Saints. And so my NFL career was a whopping 4 years, but the Patriots, I joined in 2017. I went undrafted to the Patriots in 17, right after, like 2 months after they came back against the Atlanta Falcons in dramatic fashion, which was amazing. I was wearing a Tom Brady jersey watching that game as a 22-year-old, 23-year-old at Northwestern. I
Wow.
was wearing a jersey or a Patriots gear. And I grew up a Patriots fan. Tom Brady's from the Bay Area. So when I went undrafted to them, it was a dream come true. I signed with an agent who had Brady and Edelman and Garoppolo all on, their docket as clients. So it was a match made in heaven. And I was certain I was going to make the Patriots roster. And I was certain because I did really well in the preseason, but Bill Belichick cut me. He said, "You're not good enough, son." He did not say that, but he did cut me, and so I ended up getting claimed off waivers with the New Orleans Saints, and so Erica and I had been married for a little less than 2 months when I got cut, and ended up down in New Orleans. Played down there for 4 years as a wide receiver. I was not like, if you look at my stats, I was not these are not Hall of Fame statistics. Okay. I did not break any records. However, if I had a claim to fame, it would be that I caught Drew Brees' final regular season touchdown pass in January of 21 against the Panthers. He would retire at the end of that season. And yeah, I mean, to describe my career, my football career in the NFL would be I wish I had the book. It's called The 53rd Man, and it's about the guys in the NFL who barely make the team and do it by the hair of their chin and skin of their teeth and find a way, fight a way. Literally, like, the 53rd man. Turn to chapter 12. That was about Austin Carr,
Hmm.
barely making the Saints team 4 years in a row. And one of the biggest honors was to be unanimously elected by my teammates in 2020 to be the team representative, basically represent the Saints as a part of the NFLPA, the Players Association, the Players Union, and that was a riot of a time. It was the COVID year, as everyone knows, and so drama and negotiations and controversy filled that season, and I was just trying to make it through with an ankle injury. I don't want to go too long. I know you have some questions about this, but I will say, Andrew, it's a pleasure to be on this podcast. I don't know if you realize this, but our names, we're both AC.
That's
We
right.
both have monosyllabic last names with a disyllabic first name. And you're from Arkansas. Now, I've been to Arkansas one time before for the Burlsworth Trophy thing down at the University of Arkansas.
Yeah.
I guess go Razorbacks. You're a Razorback guy. I have nothing
Woo woo
against
pig suey. Woo pig suey is what they say. So
Woo Pig
yeah.
Suey. I have no problem saying that, just so you know.
That's great. That's great. Hey, great introduction. Yeah, thankful for the context there. I'm curious. I mean, oftentimes I'll ask a few follow-ups on the introduction before we get into some of the meat of my interview. But um, curious, like how many people go from walking on their college team to the NFL? Like, do you have any idea how many, like, what percentage of people actually do that? Because I would imagine that there's most people come out of high school, go play college. You know, they get invited to play at college level, and then they go to the NFL if they're really good. I mean, you walked on. How many people are like that?
Oh yeah, it's very very few. Um but if you look at the stats, it's like less than 1% of college football
Uh-huh,
players make it
uh-huh.
to the NFL or even get invited to the combine. I think my story is definitely one of a combination of hard work, but God's providence. I can't take much credit. There are so many times where I look back, I'm like, I easily could have, torn my Achilles tendon or
Mhm.
even just like torn my shoulder labrum and missed a season. And, that would have been that. But God's protection and some great coaching and great teammates around me, just all combined to get me to where I ended up. And I will say, even while I was in the NFL, it was just like each season, it was never guaranteed that I would make the
Right.
team. And I think it's like you kind of got to focus on what you're amazing at. And this translates to entrepreneurship, right?
Yep.
What am I like really good at? And can I carve out a role that fits that profile?
Mhm.
And while I was in the NFL, it was a sure-handed guy who'd catch the ball if it was in his vicinity, and a blocker. Like I was a wide receiver that could come in and really open up some lanes for the running backs. And Coach Payton really saw that in me and carved out a role for me that led to 4 years. I was also the guy that, I was really good on the playbook, and you don't play for Drew Brees and have a simple playbook by any stretch of the imagination. And I think
Mhm.
this is something that people don't understand is like there are hundreds of plays and thousands of variations of those plays because it's not just a play, but there's several different combinations of formations that you can do to
Right.
to run different concepts. And so I was the guy that memorized all of the wide receiver roles and concepts and kind of could get plugged anywhere on the offense. If a guy got injured or if, somebody needed a breather, I could go in there. And so there's value there too. And so when you combine all those things together, it's like, okay, I carved out this role
Mhm.
that, unfortunately my third year, I tore everything in my ankle
Mhm.
and then tried to play through it my fourth year. And it was just too painful. And that was sort of the end of that NFL chapter.
Wow. What was the college decision-making process like? Take me back to high school, and I'm wondering because you chose Northwestern, but I'm assuming you weren't like a stranger to football. You had played football in high school, I'm assuming, right? Did you get offers from other colleges to play football for them before you declared your college? How did that decision to go to Northwestern and then walk on kind of originate? Was it just like spur of the moment, like, I really want to do this kind of thing?
Oh no, it's funny. Well, this was pre NIL. I'm pre NIL football. I can
Sure,
say that now.
sure.
And I had some preferred walk on offers to some D1 A's. Northwestern, I got in academically and sent my film to the coaching staff at Northwestern, and they responded, yeah, we got a spot for him to walk on here as a wide receiver. And I I was trying to thread the needle between, football program. I wanted to play ball in college, but also academic opportunities. Now, I'll say this: had I got into Stanford, I would have gone to Stanford. Being a guy from the Bay Area and just obviously the Stanford school. I
Sure.
shouldn't say that as a Northwestern Wildcat. I'm so glad that I didn't get in, and I'm because in my ignorance, right? But it was one of those things where I visited the campus and I visited Chicago for the very first time as a senior and was like, this is, it just felt right. And
Yeah.
believe it or not, I was a tour guide for 2 years. And I would usually end my tour saying, hey, there's no such thing as a perfect school. You can ask me some gotcha questions. And, Northwestern isn't perfect. But when you come on campus, when you come on a tour, there's such thing as a perfect school for you. And that's how I felt when I
Mhm.
visited. And then you kind of go into the pitch. Um, but no, it just felt right. The football program welcomed me with open arms as a walk on, and yeah, I was just really grateful to Coach Fitz and to really Northwestern University for giving me that opportunity.
At what point in the journey at Northwestern did you start to seriously entertain the NFL? Because it sounded like from what you said, that wasn't originally in the cards in your mind. It was more of just like this, kind of cool, heartwarming story. Maybe correct me if I'm wrong there. It didn't sound like when you first said that you went in as a walk on thinking I'm going to go to the NFL one day. That wasn't was that in your mind? Was that something that was a goal for you? Like, and then at what point did it kind of click that you were like, oh, this actually might happen?
Yeah, I mean, it had always been a dream. Anyone who's played football their whole life. I started
Sure,
playing football at 6 years old, like
sure,
contact football. It had always been a dream, but never attainable. Probably until 60, like probably by week like 8 or 9 of my 5th year
okay,
when it was like, "Oh, I might break some records." And really once NFL agents started to reach out to me and say, "Hey, would love to talk with you," and, sign you as my agent, it was like, "Oh, okay, wow, okay, so I'm doing well enough to make it in the NFL," right?
wow,
So it was really a progression that lasts. I mean, so it's like for 90% of my Northwestern career, it was, it's just I'm here to play and to enjoy the college life, and who knows how much field time I'm gonna get, and, like, each year became progressively more, and even my 4th year, I was a key contributor on the field and made some plays, caught a few touchdown passes, but it was sort of orders of magnitude difference between my
mm,
4th year and my 5th year, which was just a combination of opportunity, hard work, and again, great teammates and coaching that got me there. And so
wow,
and so then I signed with these agents and it's like, okay, like I'm gonna get an invite to the combine. I don't get invited to the combine. Shoot. Okay, so I do a pro day. I'm gonna run like a 4.3, 4.4. I run a 4.5, 4.6. Ah, shoot. All right. Well, I'm gonna get drafted. I don't get drafted. I go undrafted to the Patriots. And so there were all of these, I don't want to say obstacles, but like there was adversity throughout, or like plenty of
mhm,
reason to doubt myself, to doubt my skills, to doubt that was the journey for me.
mhm,
And again, it's just the grace of God, one door opening after another that led to 4 years.
wow. That's cool, and it's good to get a little more context on that. I think the audience will appreciate that. So in all of this, obviously, I see a common theme. Obviously, sports is a huge thing for you from high school, college, before that even, but high school, college, and then NFL professionally, and where you are now with intentional sports. And obviously, we'll get to more about what you do currently in your role as president there. But with these distinct chapters, Northwestern, NFL, intentional sports, this career journey that you've had, other than sports itself, do you think there's any kind of threads that connect the journeys together in your mind as you look back?
Good question. I'm sure there's several that I need to reflect on longer to think of, but I mean, one I would say would just be an un being um, an atypical candidate to be thrust into a high pressure, high visibility position, I guess
Hmm,
you could say. Like the walk on guy, he's not going to get a scholarship, really. Okay, he gets a scholarship. Well, okay, it's going to be a heartwarming story, and then that kind of opening doors to the NFL, right? Um, in my role at Intentional Sports, people don't think of the nonprofit space as being high pressure, but we we inherited we fundraised and inherited, partnered with these other organizations to build a $40 million multi-sport facility that, like, the first year was not very busy because no one knew about us, right?
Mm,
And even the community was like, this nice thing in our neighborhood, is that really for us? Can we really have access to that? And and just the challenges of running any organization, launching any organization, and the pressure of leadership, right? Our founder Andy McDermott hired me to be his right hand man here, and and entrusted me with the role of president to kind of run the team and to run the day to day, week to week, month to month operation here. And there was just a lot to learn. And I look back in my first year and a half compared to the last year and a half of running the facility, and there's just like so many mistakes, but still high pressure and still high
mm,
stakes because you have we still have to pay bills every month, and we need to fundraise, and we need to make real impact on the community, and we need to be truly accessible, but we also need to earn a little bit of revenue so we can keep the lights on.
mhm,
And oh, by the way, you have a staff team of people who are all different personalities and different backgrounds, and so that mirrors some of the pressure that you get in the NFL. I mean, I wouldn't say it's the same. Like the NFL, you have a bad week and you're wondering if you're going to be packing your bags.
mm,
And what that does to you is it changes you, right? I mean, I think that's one of the things I took from the NFL to this sector is like excellence. The price of excellence is very high, and the relentless pursuit of it is not automatic, right? Like, I think it's like humans, we need to be incentivized to be excellent.
mm.
And what is the quote? Uh, Necessity is the mother of all innovation, right?
Yeah,
Like, I need to go out and prove this week that I should be on this roster week in and week out.
sure.
And so then you find innovative ways to run routes and innovative ways to, prove to, to the world that you are an NFL receiver. And I've taken a little bit of that to intentional sports. I don't feel like someone's breathing over my neck about to fire me, but I'm bugged when things are average,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Beginning with myself, with
sure.
if I put in average effort or an average product, that bugs me. And it should,
Mm,
I think, to a
mhm,
certain extent. I think you gotta have grace on yourself, but I don't think I heard a guy say, like, "I don't think Jesus was making rickety chairs."
mm.
I don't think he was out there as a carpenter like, "Man, Jesus is he's a nice guy, but his product is trash." Like, no, I think he was an excellent carpenter or
Yes.
stonemason if you're, a history buff and, take that view. But,
Mm.
yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Oh, yeah, yeah. No, and I think that's a little nugget there for folks listening about the pursuit of excellence and the necessity of that. Um, I'm curious about the beginning, or yeah, really the beginning of your journey with intentional sports. But I think to rewind the tape even just a little bit before that is important with the ending of the NFL timeframe. So, what was that like? What was the story when you knew that football was coming to an end? You knew that chapter of your life was closing, something else was beginning. What's the story there? Like, what was that transition like for you?
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, it's a transition that a lot of people can't make. A lot of pro athletes struggle to make. And I'll be honest, I struggled too. I needed surgery when I was out,
Mm,
and there's a bit of an identity loss. I didn't retire and then immediately have some clear career or clear direction. I had toyed around with the idea of going into scouting and kind of taking the journey to become a GM.
ugh,
Uh, but I learned what scouts have to do and the amount of time that they're just staring at film and, evaluating prospects and so on. I was like, yeah, I don't think I'd enjoy that really.
mm,
And so I get surgery, I announce my retirement, and for me and my wife, it was like, okay, we don't feel called to New Orleans anymore, but where are we going to move? And it was between DC and Chicago. And I told my wife, like, we're gonna move to the next city based off of where you feel called, right?
mm,
Like, you've put your whole life on the back burner while I've been living this NFL dream, and I want you to kind of make the decision now. And that even goes back to, like, before we got engaged, I didn't really want to propose because I felt like it was at the time when the NFL was like becoming realistic, and she had worked for the FBI for 2 years. She had worked on Capitol Hill. She had offers all over the place, and I didn't want to limit that. I didn't want, it's like I don't want a long distance relationship. So, I was like, I don't know. And to make a long story short, we meet with uh, um, a premarital counselor at our church who sits down with both of us, looks at Erica, says, Erica, you'll probably need to decide, like, do you want to be with this man? Like, above any career decision, do you want to be with Austin? And she said, yes. Yeah, I love him. I remember, like, I was like shocked.
Wow.
And then he turned to me and he said, Austin, it sounds like the ball's in your court. You kind of need to decide. She's a big girl. You can decide not to get engaged to her, but you just heard from her. If you do pop the question, you have your answer now where she sees her life going. She wants to be with you. And so that was like a seismic shift in my brain. I'm like, oh wow. So from that moment forward, I was committed, and I told her, like, listen, if this NFL thing is 6 weeks, 6 years, whatever, when it's over, I want to take, I want to let you kind of take the reins on where our family goes, and I'll figure it out. And so she had a role in, there's a nonprofit that we supported here in Chicago that she felt called to join on the team, and By the Hand Club for Kids, one of our partners here at Intentional Sports. And so she took that job in fundraising, and so that kind of defined the next season of life for us in Chicago.
Wow. Wow. Okay. And then from there, like obviously you're in Chicago. Did you have rumblings of intentional sports at that point, or like what's on your side of it then? Where did that come from?
Yeah, yeah, that's right. So Andy McDermott, who's our founder CEO, reached out when he heard that we were moving back to Chicago, and I think he found out through the By the Hand staff that, hey, Erica Carr's coming to work here, and her husband, this is a profile. So Andy reaches out to me and kind of softly recruits me, and to make a long story short, it was between intentional sports and one other option, kind of
Mm,
career wise, and Erica and I both agreed that, because the other role was not really Chicago centric. I'd live here, but it would include some travel, and we both agreed, man, it would be really fun to dig deeper into the Chicago community, and really to leverage my platform as being a
mm,
former NFL player at that point to further good and godly ends, and the intentional sports mission of just, you know building a facility like what we've built in the neighborhood that historically hasn't had the kind of access to high quality spaces like this is
mhm,
so compelling to me and exciting. And it's because it's a part of my background and my story of how sports brought me out of some really rough conditions growing up. And so that kind of presented intentional sports as the obvious answer. And so I get hired, and then, like, it was over a year until we opened our doors. I mean, it was a
okay.
construction site. Yeah, I was hired, and literally the walls were going up the week that we announced my hiring, and it would be over a year. It'd be about 15 months until we could finally open the doors and really start the thing.
Wow. So yeah, that was my next question, is at what stage of the journey for intentional sports did you come into it? And it sounds like, I mean, it was in its infancy. Were you the first hire? Or
I was.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
so that puts us in December of 21 because I
Okay.
was hired, and then we opened February of 23.
Wow.
So, yeah, you could do the math, and it was just a good amount of time of me. I mean, sometimes it was like, what are we doing? So I started my master's in divinity, and it was no fault of anyone's. It's just, the lesson there is, do not take construction timelines as the gospel. That is not,
Mhm.
like,
Yeah.
add at least 10, but probably 20 to 40% on the timeline, because you
Mhm.
dig in the ground and you find new things. And it's like, oh, didn't know that these concrete paint tanks were buried beneath the ground here, but
Oh gosh.
alas, here we are.
Okay.
So yeah.
Wow. Well, I want to get into obviously a little bit more detail about what intentional sports is all about. I did go on the website though, and I'm very impressed by. Obviously, I haven't been down there in the neighborhood to see it in person, but just even what I've seen is, I was shocked. I was like, wow, this is when you said $40 million, it's every bit $40 million. It seems like really cool. Really.
152,299 square feet. We maxed out the amount that the city of Chicago would let us build here.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I'm always curious, obviously coming into intentional sports, there's a lot of this build energy, you could say entrepreneurial energy. We've talked about other ventures that you and I have been a part of. You are 100% an entrepreneur, even in the strict sense of that word, as well, and other ventures in other areas of life. But where does that come from you? I ask most of my guests this question. Where do
Mm.
you think that comes from? Obviously you've had this whole season as being part of a team and the sports environment and that type of thing, which I guess you could maybe enlighten us on how that relates to the entrepreneurship drive and that type of thing. But do you think that's innate to who you are, like nature for you, or was it nurtured by your family of origin? Like Where does that come from?
Yeah, it's funny because when I saw that question, it caused me to really think deeply.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Why am I an entrepreneur? And I lean toward nurture, and I would say that it's accidental. It's
Okay.
not I was not intentionally nurtured to be an entrepreneur. I was not I sometimes I wish I hear the stories of the guys like, yeah, I had a lemonade stand when I was 7 and I was flipping a profit here there. My customer acquisition costs like that, knowing all that stuff. I
Right.
was playing sports. I was 7
Yeah.
years old and out playing sports, making friends, in the classroom, my mom valued education, both my parents, especially my mom. So,
Right.
um, I I guess 2 things. One, high pressure environments, like how do you do in high pressure? And having played sports my entire life, that's just the air you breathe as an athlete. Every game just about has some kind of pointed moment where you play a critical role in the
Yeah.
success or failure of the team. And so like the sports world with both pressure and teamwork, like you have to be able to perform under pressure and handle pressure well. You need to be able to work on a team. If you can, like, it wasn't until I graduated and they got into the real world, post NFL, that you learn, oh, like there's people that don't know how to work on a team.
Yeah.
What? It's like you take it for granted as an athlete, and then you get into the real world and you meet people that aren't great teammates, right?
Fascinating.
And
Yeah.
luckily, that's not here at Intentional Sports. It's a great team here. But so that's the sports side. And then in Dan Martell's book, Buy Back Your Time, he references a study that I forget if it was Stanford or Harvard Business School did on entrepreneurs.
Hmm.
And the study found that a disproportionately large amount of entrepreneurs come from broken homes, right? Where one of their parents died or they got divorced. And the researchers were theorizing that perhaps that's because entrepreneurs from a young age had experienced chaos and uncertainty and gray area at a much earlier age and therefore learned how to cope in that environment
Mm.
and almost, could even thrive in that environment as opposed to people that might have had more stability growing up. And
Sure.
there's counter examples of amazing entrepreneurs who come from great homes, that abounds. But as I read that, I was like, well, that's me
Mm.
because I was in 6th grade when my parents divorced, and it was a relatively ugly one, and I look back on my childhood and some of the things that as a kid you think are normal is just like, "Oh, wow, like, that was really hard
Yeah.
to go through as a middle schooler and then a high schooler." And yet, the chaos of that and the uncertainty and all the gray area that was my childhood, 6th grade on, really maps on pretty well to entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
The chaos of, are we gonna, what is our business plan now that this new event has happened or this new strategy needs to be adjusted? The uncertainty of, like, are we going to make payroll? Are we going to be able to keep this team member? Are we going, right? The
Hmm.
gray areas of building, we say building the plane in the air here at Intentional Sports all the time, because what we're doing is, um, each part of what we're doing isn't unique, but combining all the things that we are is pretty novel in the
Right.
world of SBYD, sports based youth development. And so I look at my upbringing as an athlete, and then I look at the brokenness in my home, and I think, yeah, in God's providence, He's kind of shaped me for this moment, or He shaped me for this sector of work, and I find it rewarding. And I don't know if I'll be a serial entrepreneur, Andrew. I'm only 32, but it's a fun journey, and I feel joy. I feel
Yeah.
excitement when I'm
Yeah.
when I'm in this space.
Yeah. No, that's super helpful. And I'm sure will resonate with folks listening in different ways. I'm curious, and this is the other thing that I love asking my entrepreneur guests. Is about what they've learned about themselves. And I know that even with what you just said, like that is self-awareness at its finest. Like you've just explained some of those things that you took away from earlier chapters of your life to bring with you to this point. But I guess I'm curious about other things like even just character traits that you've noticed about yourself that really make you effective at what you do right now. If someone's trying to evaluate, man, where do I fit in this career journey of mine. Like I'm feeling unsettled about where I'm at right now. Like, but I'm trying to figure out who I am in this workplace or in this on this team. Or where do you? Maybe the question for you as a sports guy, and we talked about teams, is where do you fit on a team, and what have you learned about where you fit on a team, and how that's helped you?
Yeah, good question. I guess my leadership muscle, I'd be remiss not to say, my leadership muscle has been forced to grow
Sure.
over the last 4 years, 4.5 years at Intentional Sports, right? So we went from me being the first hire to now over 50 people. I mean, over the summer, we have over 60 employees while we do this
Wow.
youth summer camp. And so I can't just be a manager who's I have to be a leader at Intentional
Yeah.
Sports.
Yeah.
And that leading teams, I hate to sound generic and cliche, but like leading teams has become somewhat of a passion. It has become something that I really enjoy. I would say Pat Lencioni's book, The Six Types of Working Genius, is a helpful
Yes.
framework. I don't know
Love
if you've
that.
read that. Yeah.
Yep.
So
Well,
my
I've done the test. I have not read the book, I don't think.
okay.
But the five dysfunctions of the team, I want to say, is by him as well. Is that correct? That's also a good one I've read.
Yeah, it's a great one. It's a great one.
Yeah, there you go.
We read it as a leadership team at
Okay.
Intentional, and then yeah, so the five dysfunctions, and then the six working geniuses,
Yeah.
the seven habits of an effect. It's like all these numbers, but
Yeah.
um, his the widget, right, and thinking through, okay, what are your geniuses, and he kind of makes the argument. Everyone has two geniuses,
Yep.
and at least one. Um, I don't know if it's not a weakness, but it's just like what doesn't give you life in the work that you
Right.
do.
Right. A frustration, I think, is what he calls it.
Frustration, that's right.
Yeah.
And my working genius is, generally, I've noticed, is invention, the I, and then
Okay.
galvanize, the G.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And so I I really enjoy coming up with ideas for like the strategy side of leadership. I really enjoy that, thinking through snarly problems and finding solutions, and not making them more complex than they need to be, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
I enjoy, yeah, so I can come up with ideas. I can be an idea factory at times, but also galvanizer. I really enjoy, and that kind of goes to the leadership side. I enjoy building a team. I enjoy interacting with the team. I have to force myself sometimes, like, okay, sit down. Like you've got, your inbox is out of control right now. Like you need to, sometimes get work done.
Yeah.
And so I being both social, but also very, like executing at a high level is also something I
Hmm.
enjoy. So yeah, that's
That's it.
probably
No,
where I fit on any team.
that's exactly how I wanted you to answer that question. I love that. I am a huge fan of some of these assessments that you don't want to treat them as the Bible, but I think they can
Yeah.
be very helpful and very, especially for young people who have had maybe some work experience and can use that to apply their answer, apply to the answers that they give or whatever. Honestly, I would love to someday when I have a more of a following on this podcast, that would be a fun sponsor to have, like, sponsor a podcast like this, because
Yeah.
those some of those assessments, like Patrick Lencioni's Working Genius one, just are so helpful and have been helpful to me. So I happen
Mm.
to be, I believe, yeah, wonder and tenacity. Not two very different ones from what you just mentioned.
Would make
Invention
a
is
great
one
team.
of my frustrations, actually, which is crazy. But yeah, we do. We do, and I think that's one of the things that, just to camp out here for a minute, one of the things that um, I've found as an ancillary benefit to some of this deep diving into personality and different things that I've done in my own life has been, you just appreciate people who are strong in areas that you are not. I think I walked into some of this self awareness early on, like years ago, and would have thought, like, oh, I'm just generally good at most things. Like, I don't know, I had a pretty successful school career, blah blah blah, work career, whatever. And I was just like, man, I'm probably pretty good at everything. Like, it's easy to get into that mentality. Maybe that's really arrogant, but
Mm.
I've talked to other people who share that mentality before they kind of enter into a framework like the Working Genius and start to see, oh, there are some areas that are really frustrating to me, and that frankly I'm just not great at. And I could do without. And then you look at someone else who's strong in those, and you go, why didn't I see this before? Like, why didn't I
Mm.
see that they are, like, coming alive while doing this?
Right.
That actually would give me, like, an ulcer or something to do, right?
Right.
Long term.
Right.
And I don't know, that just it made me so grateful for people
Huh.
on in my life, in my circle of friends, in my church family, in my work, at times when I've been on work teams, it's like just the other wing to the airplane is what one of my friends talks about. Like
Mm.
you've got one wing, but you got to find the other wing, or maybe the rudder, or the tail wing, or whatever.
Mm.
And it's all important to make the team grow. So I
Yep.
don't know. That's just been really, really cool to see. And so to your comment about the team aspect, I need people in my life who are strong in vastly different areas, like that I'm not at all. Invention, I hate inventing things. Like I don't know. I'm not a brain like wonder has some creativity to it. Like I'm still trying to suss out the difference between wonder and invention because they're parallel in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
Like wonder causes you to ask really big questions and theorize a lot and be able to think about the why behind things in ways that other people aren't. And invention isn't unlike that in the creativity side of it, I don't think.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm still trying to figure it out. So
He groups them. I think WIDG, like each of them are in pairs. And um, I want to say the invention side is creating um, creating the solutions or creating the ideas that lead to the solutions to the question.
okay, okay,
Like how is our optimization going in this department?
right,
And so that's like critical to have someone asking that question, but that
right.
has to transfer over to, well, here's some ideas of how we could make it more, more efficient, right? And so,
Yep, yep,
um, no, to your point about discovering those working frustrations is like, and I remind myself this, I remind some of my teammates here, you don't have to be Superman.
right.
You're not Superman or
Yep,
Superwoman.
yep,
You have specific strengths. And the thing about working frustrations is it's not about competence. I appreciate him saying that. You could be competent in a frustration. It just doesn't give you
100%.
life.
Right,
And so
right.
why not delegate that to others who are given great, like, enablement for me, that's my working frustration. But people, like, there are people who love grinding at the administrative tasks
Yep,
to chase down a permit, right? It's just like, that does not give me life. But there's others who love that. Why not, like, do them a favor, do
yep,
yourself a favor, and
yep,
delegate that to them, right? And when you're a leader, I think that's a big piece of leadership is not just bringing the best out of your team, but positioning them on the bus where they're going to run the best, where they're going to be in the right position. And I just a theological reflection.
mm,
I didn't mention I got an MDiv. So I think in theological concepts often.
yeah,
That is the nature of God,
yeah,
the triune God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. If I can be so, if I can take some leash here, God is a team. Now he's not, he is, one God, many persons. No, this isn't polytheism, but,
right,
the Godhead eternally working and living in communion
yep,
with one another, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. It makes sense that we feel so much joy and are designed as social beings who want to interact with other persons and therefore want to accomplish tasks as a team rather than solo.
yes,
So
yeah.
anyway, I'll
I
get off my
love that.
soapbox, but
Yeah, yeah. Well, and then there's so many parallels biblically around the roles in the church too. Like that's one of the things that I've seen as such a parallel too. Like the passage in Corinthians where it talks about, all of us are parts of the body, and somebody's the eye, somebody's the ear, somebody's the elbow, somebody's the hand. Like and realizing that, listen, we don't all have to be the same thing. Like if we were all eyes, that just would not be a functioning body. So the imagery
right.
there just it reinforces the fact that God has given us this hardwiring by a mix of nature and nurture that really creates a unique gift to give to the world if we're so willing to be used in that way. And
Yep.
so I don't know. I think that's just really important for people to understand, especially young folks who are, yeah, just trying to figure out because you do have something to give, and it's this journey to figure it out,
Mm,
and it takes some time. So
mm.
love that aspect of the conversation. I'm sure you're familiar with Simon Sinek if you've been mentioning some of these other leadership books. Okay.
Yeah.
So Simon Sinek wrote this book called Start with Why. Um, have you read that book?
I have Leaders Eat Last,
Okay.
but
Okay.
I have
He's read,
not read Start
yeah,
with Why.
he's read several books, written several books. Sorry. But one of the books that I ran, that one of the companies I most recently worked at was big into was Start with Why, and this concept of this is where everything should start. Whether it be a business vision or a personal mission statement or personal, what gets you out of the bed in the morning. So I love asking people that too. Like for you, broadly speaking, in your life as an entrepreneur, as a leader, as a president of a large nonprofit? What's your why? What gets you out of bed in the morning?
Oh man. I think I kind of already answered the intentional sports why, right?
Right.
Where the idea is compelling to me because of my personal background and the impact that we're already having. It almost makes me teary eyed. Just the yeah, the mission of intentional sports, providing what we're providing to kids, youth, families in a neighborhood that historically haven't had it, and how much just sports, or just like simplify just sports, how that. Anyway, I'm bought into the mission here, man. So
Yeah, totally.
I love what's going on here, and um, I could be the janitor here and just be happier than if I was in another place.
Yep.
Personally, this is the athlete coming out of me, but the parable of the talents in
Mm,
Matthew 25 is something that comes to mind often, where I'll abbreviate here, but God, the idea is like God gives us gifts and resources that He expects a return on.
mhm,
Almost like we're stewards of what God has given us, and God is not content for us to sit on them or waste them away. He delegates them to us such that we would multiply them into more. No one gives money. No one gives $100,000 to their financial advisor and expects $100,000 10 years later. You expect a return on it. And that comes to mind often for me when I consider all that I've been given, all of the education, physical traits, health, family, and professional journey. Like, that's not all for nothing. And
mm,
God wastes none of our experiences, but we can play an active role in amplifying that
yeah,
experience. We can play an active role in increasing the ROI, if you want to say, return on
uh-huh,
investment for God's glory. And you have to be careful that it doesn't become a works based thought where you're like, I got to earn God's pleasure. I've got to earn His approval. No, we actually start with God's approval, but also like, so that's the love of God. Like, He approves of me. I'm His son in Christ. I put my faith and trust in Christ Jesus, and I'm following Him. And so He welcomes me into His family. That's the love of God. Praise God. The fear of God is the beginning of all wisdom, right? So like, there is this reverential fear that God expects something of me.
mm,
He's not some cosmic Santa Claus who just wants to have me feel fuzzy wuzzy inside. No, he's delegated something to me, and there's going to be a call to account. Austin, what did you do with what I gave you? Let's assess. And so I wake up in the morning and I consider all that God's given me. Everyone has received at least one exorbitantly gracious gift from God that God wants us to steward for His glory.
mhm,
And
mhm,
so as I think about that, and I'm in my early 30s, and um I've got a lot on my plate, but I tend to generally be just a high capacity person. Like, I want more in life. Just, doesn't mean I need to do more stuff, but just like I like I love living life to the fullest, living life with vigor.
mhm,
But I have to make sure I'm not like, I have to make sure, okay, I'm like, there's this multiplication that I want to bring to the fore. And I want to look back on my life and say, yeah, like I was a faithful steward with that money, with that time, with that health, with that family, with the relationships I had, the network. And if I have been, like, great. Like, God's going to bring the results. He's going to bring the fruit, right? But Craig Groeschel talks about how faithfulness multiplied by time
mm,
leads to incredible amounts of fruit. But you can't, if you're missing one of those two things, you have time, but you're not being faithful with it. You're a poor steward. You're faithful, but you're not doing it over a long period of time. So you have you're in a rush. You need to have both of those things if you want to live a life that leads to fruitfulness, both
yeah,
for God's kingdom. This also applies. You might not be a Christian, but if you remain faithful in a certain calling over a long period of time, you will see this flywheel effect of just results churn out. And
mhm,
So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I love it. I was just it reminds me of, another and I'm sure you've heard this, but, earlier this week, I was talking to some other entrepreneur friends of mine, and somebody brought up the old thought that people underestimate, I believe, what can be done in a year, or I'm sorry, they overestimate what can be done in a year and underestimate what can be done in 5, and
Yeah.
I guess you could say longer time periods than that as well.
Mhm.
And I love that. I think it hits on what you're saying there at the end about just the faithfulness. It's like
Mm.
the winners, that's what separates the winners from the losers in many cases
Mhm.
is just how long you're able to last doing the
Mhm.
same things over and over again. That, and you show up, and that mentality of being a steward, I think, is so helpful as well. Um,
Mm.
no, that's fantastic. Very, very great answer there.
Mm.
I know you're a reader. I know there's a lot on the mind, based on even some of the books you brought up already. What are some of the most significant books you've read? And we'll broaden it out a little bit too, if you have things that come to mind. But just significant influences as a leader. If you were to point out some of your favorites, what would they be for those listening?
Mm. Mm. Oh man. I mean, I'll start by saying last summer I got a chance to go to the leadership conference at Willow Creek. Why am I
Oh yeah,
blanking on the name?
Global Leadership Summit, maybe. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
I got to hear John Maxwell. Were you there?
No, but I've
Oh,
I've heard about it, and I'll probably end up there, the next couple of years.
you might be speaking there one day, Andrew. So,
Well,
well, I I went, Nick Saban spoke. He was a joy to listen to. Craig Rochelle spoke. He was
yep,
great to listen to. But I was really struck by John Maxwell sharing in his talk. He kind of pointed to that point of faithfulness, and it was one of those things like he is living life to the fullest. Here's this 78-year-old man who is a guru in leadership and is a man, he's just such an impactful. I think he was celebrating 3 million souls changed through his ministry and books.
wow,
And I remember walking away from his talk like, man, here's this 78-year-old guy living life to the full. He's 79 now, probably. He didn't get to this position by having this like leadership ministry and calling. Oh, and by the way, like this tuba playing hobby on the side that he was really trying to grow into some bigger like thing. It's like, no, and you have hobbies, and he actually commented on this. He said like a hobby is a good thing to enjoy for yourself, but a bad thing to have other people pay you for, or like
wow,
or to
wow.
expect others to pay you
Yeah,
for. And I just walked away like, yeah, I gotta cut some other stuff out of my life.
mm,
Uh that are hobbies that are fun, that give life to me, but that should not be taking as much. And so this is a point about degree, not about it's not binary whether you go on walks or don't go on walks. It's just like don't go on walks for an hour and a half every day. Go on a 20-minute walk. It's healthy
mhm,
for you. But I think his testimony and his ministry is just so inspiring to me. I'm almost done with Zero to One by Peter Thiel right now.
mhm,
Um, Great book for entrepreneurs and thinking innovatively. The Five Dysfunctions of a Team you mentioned, the Six Working Geniuses is a great one. Um, I mean, I have several John Maxwell books on leadership, which is really helpful. Podcasts, I like the Craig Rochelle podcast. I like the Faith Driven Entrepreneur podcast. I like the Diary of a CEO
yep,
podcast. I'm thumbing through Good to Great by
yep,
Jim Collins. That's a seminal one. As well as I'm reading Good Strategy, Bad Strategy, which is a good one as well. And then The Effective Executive. I mean, these are anyone who's been in leadership for time is rolling their eyes right now saying like, okay, Austin, like, move on from the move on from the leadership 101 course. And you could get more you can learn more. But those are the lanes that I'm running in. And then obviously the
right,
Bible. I mean, I read the Bible every day. I find God's good pleasure
mm,
and connect with him through the word, and it is from the Bible that I, view the world and view
right.
myself. And yeah, those would be the main influences.
That's great. Yeah, I love that. Cool. Well, let's pivot a little bit and let's talk about. I want to get to your true passion. Well, I mean, you've got a lot of passions, and I know this may not be the top, but it's pretty up there as I hear you talk about it. But let's talk about intentional sports a little bit more.
Mhm.
And I heard you say, and you alluded to this question, but I really wanted to ask it. you're doing a lot of things that are in I guess their component parts not too unique, but
Mhm.
as a whole, as you said, when you put it all together, it's very unique. So what is that? What do you think intentional sports is doing that is so different than other youth developmental sports programs or whatever acronym you just used?
Yeah. So what makes intentional sports really special is the combination of sports-based youth development, like this belief that sports is a very effective, if not one of the most effective vehicles through which youth lives can be changed.
Mhm.
One, SBYD, sports-based youth development. Two, to purpose that mission in a neighborhood like the Austin neighborhood. We're on the west side of Chicago, which when we opened in 23, Austin, the previous year data from 22 had shown that the Austin neighborhood was the third most violent in terms of violent crime per capita. And it's the second most populated. So, this is like a lot of homicides
Wow.
with a lot of people, right? And we chose to build a multi-sport facility in that neighborhood. And, and we're not right off the freeway. Like if you, like any large facility like ours, if you look it up, it's going to be right off the freeway
Yeah.
because that's just the easiest way to make money, and we're nonprofit and we're embedded in the community here. So SBYD plus location slash mission, I would say, right? Like, and so there's a lot of SBYD organizations that are really cool, doing great work. There's a lot of organizations on the west side or the south side of Chicago that are doing good work, right? So we're those two things, and then add at the scale that we did it, right? Like
Yeah.
we $40 million, 150 over 150,000 square feet. It's. I mean, I heard one local guy say like, "This is an oasis in the desert, man."
Mhm.
He's a local guy, and so when you combine those three things, you have something really special. And we're unapologetically committed to sports being the vehicle, right?
Mm.
Like you come into the space, it's sports. Like there's other facilities that get built like ours, and the sports space would probably be about 40% of the space, and then the other 60% of the space would be classrooms and these other things. And we do have some of those. And we're realizing we're more than a sports center. We're also just this kind of connective tissue for the community. One might say a community center.
Yeah.
But we believe sports is the best vehicle through which young lives can be changed for the better. And so that shows in the square footage, in just how we laid out the facility, and that shows in the programming that we're running.
Mhm.
Like I I laugh. It's um like hydroponic gardens are great. And maybe we have some partners who do that here on site. That's like, we're going to stick to volleyball and
Right.
basketball and
Right.
soccer and baseball and futsal and esports and speed and agility and weightlifting, so,
Yeah.
and there's amazing partners who come in and do other things here. But, it's almost like we unapologetically say like sports is the best vehicle
Mhm.
to reach outcomes in youth lives
Mhm.
and in the neighborhood that you'd like to see. So, okay, what do you mean outcomes, Austin? One, within a point. So CBD data shows that from since when we opened in 23 to today, youth gun victimization has dropped by over 50% within a 0.5 mile radius of our campus.
Well,
Whoa, right? Talking about violence, talking about violence prevention and intervention. And I'm not here saying that that's all because of us. There's other organizations in the neighborhood that are doing really well. But if you draw a 0.5 mile, circle around us, it's getting less violent. And this is while crime in other neighborhoods similar to ours is increasing. And there's a lot of data showing, homicide nationwide improving, which is awesome. And it's a team effort to that. But then you go hyper local to what we're doing here, and you see tangible outcomes
mm,
that we're here saying, well, that's because you get kids off the streets and you give them an opportunity to play basketball, and some of them are being actively recruited toward gangs, but you say, hey, listen, sign this character agreement, play on our team. You can't pay, that's fine, but we're going to hold you to a certain standard, and like that kind of flywheel effect for families and for neighborhoods is what we're after. So
well,
that's a long-winded answer to
yeah.
explain what's unique about intentional sports, but I think it's worth going into greater detail because
Mhm.
we've outgrown our space already. We are. um, like we could double this facility, and within 2 years we would be full again.
Wow.
So um, we have dreams of expanding one day, but
Yep.
I can't comment at that right now.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. I want to ask why sports? Obviously we probably beat around that bush a little bit in conversation to get to this point, but why do you think sports are so transformational for
Mm.
kids?
Mm. Oh man, I'll get alliterative here. One, I can push you, right? As a coach, you're
Yep.
a kid, and maybe there's just been low expectations on your life. Well, I'm your coach. I can push you to
Yeah.
go harder, to try
Yep.
better, to think better, to think smarter, to commit yourself deeper, right? And there you can only do that to a certain extent in a classroom or even at a home, but this this environment of competition is just it can bring the worst out of people. It can also bring the best. And when done well, it brings the best out of people, and
Mm,
especially kids. So I can
mm,
push you. Two, I can punish you. And, I'm not trying to be controversial, but accountability is a real thing,
yeah.
right? If you came late to practice, your teammates, everyone's going to run. You're going to watch them, right? Like
Hmm.
if you grew up playing sports, you experienced people suffering because of your boneheadedness or careless mistakes.
Yeah.
And I think society is better when we hold one another accountable, from our leadership all the way down to the lowest on the ladder. And sports is just this environment where, so I can push you, I can punish you, and I can prune you. I'll say prune.
Nice.
Responding to adversity, right? And this is the character building side, right? Like
Hmm.
responding to adversity, learning how to work on a team, consistency over time, right? Perseverance, you might call it. Um, gosh, effort, work ethic, right? A
Yeah.
lot of these character traits that don't just appear, right? They have to be developed over time.
Hmm.
That's what sports, when done well, will will bring about. I mean, that was so good. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Andrew. I'm gonna write that down. Like, why
Go for
sports?
it.
And so I said, push you. I'm just gonna write this down. Sorry.
Yeah. Prune was the last one. I know that.
Yeah, push, punish, and prune.
Yep. Yep. That's
Yeah,
great. I love it. Oh
yeah.
man.
But it's the closest thing to like a silver bullet that,
Yeah.
uh, if I told you, hey, I've got something that will, will inspire. We'll say the push is like inspiration. It's going to inspire people. Like they're gonna get kind of this intrinsic motivation to get better, inspire through competition, and then also like you're going to get punished if you step, if you're crossing a line, right? So that's
Hmm.
accountability. And then pruning is like, hey, by the way, like character development is like central to this thing.
Hmm.
Um, that's like, who wouldn't want that for any kid?
Hmm.
I want my kid to be
Totally.
inspired. I want my
Right.
kid to be held accountable. I want my
Yep.
kid to be
Yep.
developing this list of character traits.
Yep.
So why sports? There you go, Andrew.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a book or an essay at least.
That's great. That's great. You heard it here first, folks. I'm honored.
That's right.
Austin's book,
That's
uh,
right.
straight from Cook's table. Look at that. So yeah, I mean, I'm hearing the other thing that you said that like caught my attention and made me think just now was, and I think it may have been the answer just prior to what you just said, but it can almost be an alternative to like getting recruited to gangs. And I also heard you say um, these elements within sports that almost mirror, but probably give you opportunities to say things and to you know develop people in ways that families couldn't even. So I'm hearing. I guess I'm there's a couple things kind of I'm trying to bring together in my mind here as I hear you talk about, but like there's this alternative. This, and you mentioned the silver bullet as an illustration. Talk about that. Like this is an opportunity for kids to belong, I guess. In a way that maybe they don't feel belonging in their family. Maybe in a way that they are thinking about trying to find belonging in the gang. And this is a third option that's safe, but it also provides that sense of belonging. Is that a fair assessment as well?
Yeah, it's definitely a fair assessment. And the um the reality is just access to that, right? I think
Sure.
kids everywhere in the world want to play and want to compete and want to be healthy, whether they know it or not. And it is giving them access to that space. It's
Mm,
giving them opportunity to have that in their life. And the younger you start, the better. And so I agree with you wholeheartedly. It's this alternative path, and we've started to still, do more storytelling at Intentional Sports about some of these individual lives that are being changed through sports. And so, yeah, you can go to our YouTube page where we released one on Travis, who is a young man in our basketball program who, single mom and some tough background, but Trey, our basketball director, recruited him and got him into our basketball program, and it really the lights turned on for him. The next, over the next week or so, we're going to release another one about um, I'm gonna blank on his name. It's not finished editing yet, but it's on another young man whose life has been changed through soccer in our soccer program, right? And so
Uh-huh.
these are the stories that there's that saying, but the heart can't feel what the eyes don't see. Well, we're trying to show these are the lives that are being changed, individual lives that are being changed that kind of get us excited about this concept of SBYD. I
Uh-huh.
explain Intentional Sports is somewhere between like a YMCA and that
Mhm.
we're a nonprofit. We're like, no one's getting rich off of this. We're we're fundraising to try to keep the lights on this side, community centric, and a brand new Division II sports program where you walk into our space, you're like, this is nice. This is clean. Like we take pride. Like we don't contract out our cleaning. Like we clean it ourselves, our
Wow.
staff,
Yeah.
right? And that enables us to hire more people from the neighborhood as well. So there's that
Mhm.
career advancement that's part
Mhm.
of it too. So um that's the space that we live in that's unique, where you have this excellent facility with hopefully excellent programming, but you also have this community centric mindset that serves the community hopefully better and better each year.
I love that. I love that. That is another thing I wanted to ask is about the unique model, and you touched on a couple things there, but from what I understand from looking at the website and doing some research, it sounds like there's a for-profit aspect to your operations and the nonprofit aspect, and I wonder, I guess I wonder if that's unique in the way that you're doing that. Like to go back to the original question of what makes Intentional Sports so unique amongst the other organizations. If that dynamic right there is one another thing to point to, that's like this is unique. I don't know how you'd answer that, but how has that model, I guess, contributed to the success? And what are the benefits and drawbacks to that if someone's thinking about doing kind of a similar thing for a nonprofit they might want to start?
Good question. I would say, so we're a nonprofit 501(c)(3). So everything
Right.
we do is to serve the Chicagoland residents, our neighbors in the Austin
Right.
neighborhood, Belmont Cragen, West Humboldt Park, Hermosa. How we like when we think about, okay, how is the space used? We have what we call it mission driven hours and then revenue driven hours.
Okay.
To simplify, mission driven hours are these hours where we're not like everyone's getting discounted however much they need to use the space. Those predominate Monday through Friday, 3:30 to 7 p.m. roughly. Those are the after school hours. That's when the kids get out of school and they need something to do. So it's like, okay,
Yeah.
those are the hours that we're gonna like. Those are mission driven, and everything we do is mission driven here. But like
Right.
that's the excessive focus or exaggeration there.
Yep.
Outside of those hours, you might call them revenue driven hours. And those are the hours where we pretty much either run adult soccer leagues or people rent space from us to run
Okay.
their own programs. And um, that has been a decision that we've made to just, usually you start with 10 years of programming and then you do a massive capital campaign to raise $40 million, and then you build the thing. And the first month it's just full. It's just, it's just overflowing, right?
Yeah.
We reversed that. We were a brand new nonprofit. We partnered with a couple amazing organizations to build the $40 million facility, and then we had to fill it. And
Right.
like in our fourth year now, it's filled. Right?
Yep.
Okay, so it's just taken time to get here, but the strategy to get here was, okay, we've built this beautiful facility that people are willing to pay. Like some of these soccer clubs and basketball teams, and Nike is coming next week to do a coaches summit.
Wow.
Nike's not afraid to pay us money to
Right.
use our facility. That's in their
Right.
budget. And so we've said, okay, well, we'll receive that revenue that will help pay our staff. That'll help, pay the utilities and the overhead and so on. You're an accountant, you know this,
Yep.
and that'll keep us churning while we get the fundraising engine going, because as amazing as it would be to say like, yeah, we're, all these grants are lining up to fund us. You need at least 2 years of data to even qualify for many of these grants, which means for 2 years we didn't qualify for these grants, and a lot
Wow.
of
Yeah.
people are kind of crossing their arms like, huh, I wonder if they're going to work out. I wonder if they're going to go under next month, right? And we
Yeah.
got close at times because
Yeah.
things are tight, and I promise you, we are not in some excessive operation here. We are tight. We ended in the black in 2025 just a little bit, like for the first time. And that was like, like me and Andy were just like excited
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
But hopefully we get that fundraising engine going. If anyone's listening and feels
Yeah.
compelled
Right.
to help participate, or you have a rich uncle who wants to, help fund inner city SBYD, I'd love to talk with you,
Yeah.
because we want to like figure out Chicago. We want this to be this sort of proof case for what could be done, and then maybe we expand. Maybe we expand within Chicago, or maybe we expand to another city, somewhere else in America. It seems like just about every month, someone is reaching out to me asking about another, their city. Literally, yeah. Yesterday, I was speaking with some folks from the Detroit Lions. And they're like, "Hey, Detroit, we need something like this. Would you ever
Wow.
consider coming here?" And I was like, "Yeah. Do you have $40 million?" I was
Yeah.
like, I'd love to. So one step at a time.
Right, right. Well, that was my next question is what can you share about the long-term vision? And I know you've already basically just explained, that there's desire to expand, whether it be local or national. And sounds like there's a lot of people, uh, coming after you for that, which is really cool. So,
My
stay
agent,
tuned.
brief story. My
Yeah.
my NFL agent, he's based in Hawaii. He
Okay.
called me like over a year ago. Was like, "Hey, would you guys ever want to? Believe it or not, Hawaii. We have rough neighborhoods. We need something like. Would you guys ever come here?" And I'm like, "That is the first place I want to go next." So,
Yeah.
um,
That's great.
yeah. So we
Maybe
will.
maybe one intentional sports chapter at least within each state. Could be a really cool vision, Who knows?
Yeah, intentional
Uh,
Honolulu or something. Yeah,
wow, yeah.
yeah.
Um, okay, a couple more questions, then we'll bring it in for a landing here. But just for the sake of those out there who are trying to figure out, maybe they've got some entrepreneurial ideas, maybe they're drawn to the nonprofit space in some way, shape, or form. It's been very informative, for someone out there who's listening to, and can hear you go back and forth about the challenges and the heart that you have, and everything in between. What else would you add to what it takes to successfully start and lead a nonprofit for those who might be considering?
Mm, that's a good question. I'm not gonna pretend like I'm some guru, but what I can share from my experience is a solid group of core funders
Hmm.
who believe in you to get you across the 3 year. I'd say for us, like it took about 3 years to get across the hump of, all right, the flywheel has started gaining momentum. Because you're not gonna get grants unless you know somebody. Like you're not just not gonna get the funding you need early on because you haven't proven your impact yet.
Hmm.
Um, build a great team of people who are passionate, and be on the lookout for when you need to make the transition of passionate, loyal teammates to specialists. And
Yeah.
that's the growth of any, well, no, that's the growth of nonprofits for the most part. Like early on, you just need people, they'll wear any hat and they'll do anything because they believe in the mission and are about it. And that's great. You need those people. At some point you grow large enough and you get a budget to where, okay, you're wearing these four hats. Um, you wear that first hat really well. 2 through 4, let's go find somebody who knows how to do marketing. I'm just picking a obscure example,
Yep.
and then start to hire in some specialists who just raise the level. And that's the thing is like, it doesn't have to be a nonprofit thing, but like try to raise the level of the organization with each hire. Hiring
Mm.
is such a big component, and I've made mistakes in that lane
Yep.
repeatedly in the past, and gratefully it hasn't ruined intentional sports, and we've only got better, and I've got better as a leader. But man, like especially leaders that you bring in, um, like I heard one guy say like date them for a while. You don't get married after one date. Don't
Wow.
do
Yeah.
one round of interviews. Do
Yep.
3, 4, 5. Go get
Yep.
lunch. Go see them, in their territory, and just build your level of confidence before you pull the trigger on someone, because it's hard to undo that, right?
Mm,
So that'd be another one. And then I mean, demonstrating impact is really important. Passion from leadership and on down is important. Keeping the mission front and center. I think Jim Collins's hedgehog concept is really helpful too. Like, where's the where's the intersection of your passion,
mhm.
where you could be best in the world, and like this economic engine. Whereas in the social sector, maybe that's more, fundraising engine, but which is going to be mission and impact nowadays. But what can you truly be the best or amongst the best in the world at,
Yeah.
in as this nonprofit solving this specific problem? Maybe it's a problem a lot of people are trying to solve, but you do it in a really unique and powerful way. Identify that as early as you can and refine the idea and get your reps in, so that you can continue to broaden and deepen your impact. So there's probably other things that I'm too tired to name right now, but I'd start there.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. Thank you for yeah, just the extended time here. Last couple questions I love to ask everybody as we wrap up. But one, looking back, what are you most proud of? And two, looking forward, what are you most excited about as you look to the next year, both personally and professionally, or whichever one you like?
Yeah, I mean, professionally, I'm most excited about expansion at Intentional Sports. Alongside, like, excited about the proof case. Like, when can we look at Intentional Sports Chicago and on the west side and say, yeah, that's a finished, not finished, but like there's the template, right?
Right. Right.
We're getting closer. I think every month, every quarter, we get closer to that. Um, Sorry, it was what I'm most excited about in the future, what I'm most proud of in the past.
Right.
For Intentional Sports, what I'm most proud of is, man, we've got an amazing team, including people who've been with us since we were just a gravel field, right?
Wow.
When we just were opening, multiple people on the team. That's possibly one of the biggest compliments for any organization. When your winners stick around, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So that's big. Personally, I'm most proud of, I guess, just how I've grown as a leader,
Mhm.
and I'm still growing a ton. And I know 3 years from now, I'm going to look back on 26 and be like, man, but I think I'm just not the same person I was, back in 2023 as I am today, which, is as much the grace of God as anything else. And what I'm most excited about in the future is just continued growth. I mean, that goes back to I am a growth minded person. I am like, yeah, like, I want to be better.
Yeah.
I want to refine my craft, right? It's so different than when I was a wide receiver. And here's the thing, like, we admire people like, Michael Jordan for like how much hard work he did to refine his craft to become an excellent basketball player. But then we look at maybe the guy who puts in a 60-hour work week every now and again, and we kind of click our teeth and say, he's a workaholic. He's, and there's something to that, right? We don't want to idolize our work. Um, we don't want to be unnecessarily working extra just for the sake of it. We're
Yep.
called to be, in community, and not to define our lives through work, but refining your craft comes at a cost. And, there's there's a calling on all of us, I think, toward excellence or effectiveness, we could say. Peter
Mhm.
Drucker would rather I say effectiveness. And so, um, working to become more effective is a worthwhile
Mhm.
enterprise. And it's almost like the harder you work now and the better you get now, like faithfulness multiplied by time, let's call it, like 20 years from now, you will get 5 times the amount of results with less than half the amount of effort as when you were, say, my age, let's say. And so what I like, if I'm speaking to young entrepreneurs, it's just like, to the point you made, you overestimate how much you could do this year, but underestimate how much you can 5, 10, 15 years. Start to measure your life in years, maybe. And that's what I've been experiencing lately, is like, I used to measure my life in like weeks, days even. And now I have kids, and now I'm starting to think about legacy and generations, and so now I'm almost measuring my life, I'd say, in quarters probably now.
Mhm.
And I think that's okay. Maybe I should be doing, I need to take my own advice though, and like measure my life in years. How did 25 go? How is 26 going? And, we're midway through now. It's early June, mid June. Um, how can I, how can I make what adjustments do I need to make to to make this year the best it could possibly be. What almost like, and don't make it legalistic. Ask you this question: what gift do I want to present to the Lord at the end of my life? Like what do you want to show for your life that you'll offer to the Lord as a gift for the days He gave you under the sun on earth? I had a friend who framed it that way for me. There's just a powerful like, oh yeah. Like it's just about His glory. Like, okay, yeah, how do I want to glorify Him by the end of my life? As for man, his days are like grass. He's here one day, or he flourishes like the flowers of the field, for he's here one day and then he's gone the next.
Mhm.
But the steadfast love of the Lord is from everlasting to everlasting. Is Psalm 103, my favorite song. Um, so I think that mindset is a powerful one. And um, I start to preach at you, and I don't mean to, Andrew, but
That's
I'm
good.
preaching in a couple weeks at my church too. So
Let's go.
I'm almost getting some reps in right now.
Well, with the alliteration that you got going on with the P words, I mean that will maybe you can translate that into the preaching. Who knows? But
Yeah.
Austin, I appreciate this so much. This has been great conversation, very encouraging to me on multiple levels. I think it will be very encouraging to those who are listening as well. You're a joy to be with, and it's a joy to hear about what you're up to, and I look forward to following along that journey. And I love doing that with those who've been on my show. Is maybe we can check back in a year or two and see where things are at with intentional sports and with the other ventures that you've got going on. So just until next time, it was really just a pleasure today. So thank you.
Thanks for having me, Andrew.